We'll call the meeting to order at 6:12 p.m., February 6th, 2024. Okay. We will have the roll call. The Historic Resources Commission is charged with promoting, enhancing, and preserving the character of the historic district, as well as landmarks, including the Courthouse Square Historic District. The commission has a quasi-judicial role. The commission hears evidence, determines relevant facts, and then applies the law as it concerns to the exterior changes to or demolition of any properties, as well as new construction in the district. Commission members shall conduct themselves with professionalism and show courtesy to fellow board members, other city representatives, and the public. A board member shall approach disagreements in a positive fashion and refrain from personal criticism of the meeting participants and other city representatives. Once the majority of the commission reaches a decision, the minority shall respect and honor the decision. Please remember, all public meetings and public hearings are recorded. All comments must be recognized by the chairperson and addressed through the microphone. When speaking to the commission, please stand, speak slowly and clearly into the microphone, and state your name and address for the record, for the recorded record. Please be respectful to others and refrain from disruptions during the meeting, and refrain from conversation with others in the audience, as the microphones are very sensitive and can pick up whispers in the back of the room. Please silence all cell phones. Thank you. Roll call and confirmation of a quorum. Jim Young. Present. Matt Haley. Zipporah Clark Baldwin, present. Karen Chin. Here. If we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now a moment of pause of silence. We would now consider the minutes from November 7th, 2023 meeting on the Historic Resources Commission. The minutes include findings and facts and conclusions of the Law Commission. Are there any corrections that you've noted? Any from November 7th? You got November 7th? Just to see if there are any corrections, and if not, we can move on. Everything's fine. Yeah, okay, if not, may I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Yeah, I move that we accept the minutes of the last meeting, which is November 7th, 2023.
Properly second, motion moved. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We will now begin the inventory hearings of the items listed on the agenda as a quasi-judicial proceeding. The Historic Resource Commission is setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The Historic Resources Commission hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in guidelines and standards of the specific historic district for that application. The Historic Resources Commission must make its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence to determine the facts of the hearing. The Historic Resources Commission will use judgment and discretion to apply to the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the application. The commissioners in voting for an item shall not have a fixed opinion, not susceptible to change, have a conflict of interest, have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. This meeting is open to the public, but participants is limited to parties withstanding to participate who wish to provide comment, testimony regarding the proposal. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference, hearsay, or opinion. New business, I now move to open public hearing. May I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in a public hearing for COA 2402. Evan, will you please present the staff report on COA 2402?
Yes, ma'am. Before I do that, Mr. Young, will you make sure your mic is on if you hit the button at the bottom?
Okay,
Yep, thank you. There you go. Okay, so this COA 2402 is for the Green and McClure building, prominent building on North Main Street. They're looking to receive approval for a facade renovation. And I'm going to keep the details pretty light because I know the presenter here, Anna, has a lot to say and a lot of information to give you guys, but they're going to use an exterior insulation and finishing material that's modern and weather resistant, while also drawing inspiration from the historic facade of the building at 118 North Main. It's worth noting that Green and McClure Furniture has been in front of you guys before, or in front of previous historical resource commissions before. They've gotten COAs approved related to this project for removing metal siding to replace the facade underneath and restore it. They've also had them amended to the following year to include architectural design work, and that was passed as well. And that's about all I have as far as an introduction goes.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay. So now we do have representative here. Let's see. Did you indicate the location of the property on the map?
Yeah, sorry. And yeah, if
That's
you look
okay.
at the map up on the screen and on your sheet, it is the outlined, like I said, 118 North Main Street on the north side of Court Square, pretty much across from Graham Cinema, if I'm remembering correctly.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Commission members, do you have any further questions for Mr. Evan?
No.
I think I know more about Drive It than I should know now. It's pretty neat, the material that they're using.
If we could please have the applicant to come forward stating their name and address. And if you would confirm the staff summary and for any additional information that you would like to make and any corrections that you see fit. Thank you.
My name is Anna Worth. My name is Anna Worth. I am the principal of Flock Design and Architecture based at 202 North 7th Street in Mebane, North Carolina. And the building at 118 North Main Street, y'all have probably seen the levels of deconstruction and construction that are going on with it. When Mr. Griffin McClure, who was the client and owner of the building, removed those modernist metal panels, I think that were dated from the 60s or 70s, there you go. He was hoping to find a beautiful brick facade underneath, much like the rest of the buildings that are in on Main Street, and was surprised to find what he found, which was unfortunately bits and pieces of different repair work and different facades over the time. Originally, when the business moved to that location in 1919, and you see a picture of that taken in 1937 there.
Oh.
That facade, it turns out, was likely produced by the Mesker Brothers Metal Manufacturing Company, who made very similar facades all across the United States. Unfortunately, portions of them were removed when the 1970s facade was put up. And there at some point was a fire that apparently was set by a smoking bird in the southeast corner of the roof. And so those panels of plywood that we saw in the cornice and architrave areas of the building were likely put up, one, to repair that damage, but also probably when they first put up that 70s modernist facade. They just removed anything that cantilevered out from that roof area. And then you see, of course, the glass had been removed, and again, that sort of metal panel put in above the storefront. And the existing aluminum metal storefront that we see today, that's at street level, has been there at least since, I think, the late 1980s. So when we first looked at it, the owner was really keen to try and put masonry back up in that location, so that it would look harmonious with the existing storefronts on Main Street. But after some structural analysis and geotechnical analysis of the existing conditions in the soil, in the foundations, and the steel structure that's there, brick started to seem a little out of our reach. We needed something that was going to be lightweight. And so what we did is we took a step back and we decided to do a little bit of material investigation and decided that a system that's often known as an exterior insulating finishing system, or EIFS is what we all knew it to be called in the 1980s, had recently been updated and changed to become a very lightweight, durable, water resistive method for installing a facade. And a little bit further investigation revealed that Dryvit, as a company who does this kind of a system, had a whole slew of wonderful profiles that we could use for trim, and were open to us creating custom brackets. So with that in mind, thinking about the fact that we definitely needed to waterproof that facade, we needed something lightweight, and that we also wanted to do something that was in harmony with the existing facades on Main Street, and also something that tipped a hat to the existing or original Mesker facade, that pressed metal. We decided to go the route of Dryvit and EIFS for that system. And I believe there's a sample up there. You can kind of take a look at the different pieces and parts. There's one example of kind of a smoother finish there that's on the flat cardstock. And then that's a system sample that shows the insulation, which is kind of the core, which all it is really is insulation. But it also means that you can carve it and create these kind of profiles that you might normally find made out of stone or cementitious materials, or even back in the 20th century, it would have been made of stucco, much like at the Columbian Exhibition in Chicago, 1989. So, so this great material allows us to do what we want to do and be as decorative as we want to be, while also making it seem like it would work with the historical inventory of Main Street. What we didn't want to do, however, was entirely recreate the Mesker facade, because it's not going to be pressed metal. Parts of it had been removed. And the building itself has changed. One side used to be an undertaker's. Now it's not. Both sides are now a furniture sales place. And so in keeping with that, we wanted to take in a lot of the historic elements of the original Mesker facade, but update them to accurately show the materiality that we're proposing, which means a more simplified decoration, one. Two, we're not going to see a pediment, which would be, and I'm going to walk in front, hopefully this will follow me around, which you can just make out in the historic photo, which are those elements that kind of pop up above. We're also not going to include some things that were specific to the Mesker Brother facade, which are on the brackets that are part of the cornice. They're little decorative medallions that were specific to them, and the ribbon work as well, which was specific to them as a manufacturer. And so we're going to take that idea, simplify it, so that it ends up, again, sort of tipping a hat to what had been there, using the proportions of what they had. but making it clear that it's a new facade with new materials. The proportionality, we tried to keep the same. So you'll notice that the windows are more vertical than they are horizontal, and that the 2/2 pattern is what was in the original facade. That the cornice proportion in terms of how the cornice works with the architrave and the overall entablature, and I'm going to fumble over that word, entablature of that upper portion, which is the portion basically above the windows, is in keeping with the original proportion, but is also in keeping with its neighboring building, which is a 3-story building, and the proportion at that cornice. There you go. And 2 other things that we're keeping from the Mesker facade with some updating. One is the recessed panels that you see above the window, which kind of act as this stylized architrave above the window. So you'll notice on the Reiki Drugs building, those red architraves that are above the windows. That was a fairly common detail for that era of storefront. And what the Mesker brothers did is take it and invert it. And so that's what we're showing above those windows, which is kind of a recess. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're keeping those pilasters or engaged pilasters between the windows, which was also another kind of Mesker facade thing to do. But we're simplifying them, and we're going from a Corinthian style down to an Ionic style. Again, keeping with the simplicity of the facade, the modernization of the facade. And then the last thing that we're doing is we're keeping the brackets that were up there and spreading them out over the facade to make it look like it's harmonious, much in the same way that the Mesker facade did, even though if you look at this facade, it is not. One side is 16 inches longer than the other side. And that was true historically speaking as well.
That's just because the way the building was built in proportion,
Yeah,
the 2 different businesses maybe.
yeah. Our
Mhm.
assumption was that one part was built and then the follow-up building was built. And because they were the same family, but 2 sides of the same coin. So furniture and But so that was our intent, is to make it harmonious with the downtown, to make it harmonious with its own history, but also provide some level of modernization to the facade and to try and be true to that. Otherwise, I felt like the city's representation of the project was accurate. So I appreciate that. And thank you very much for your time.
Wow.
Thank you so much for your information.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go over some things I think I heard you say, and if I'm wrong, please feel free to correct me. So what you indicated, what I heard was that you're using for the exterior installation a material that's more modern. You could not use brick because of the weight of it, and you needed something lighter. And so you went with the Mesker facade.
Actually, we were going with a Drive It is the company, and the system is called EIFS.
EIFS, but the Mesker facade was the brothers that were
The original
designers for the
1990.
original 1919. Okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. Okay, so then you said that you had tried to go structural as geotechnical. Is that what you said?
Yes, we had a test done in
The soil?
the soil underneath the facade.
I'm with you. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding because this is very important that we do in case we're asked, how did y'all make that decision based on what information? So yeah, so you tested the soil
Mhm.
to make sure that it could uphold the structure, or what was the soil? What was that?
Well, we were interested in the facade being able to hold the brick.
The brick, okay, but it was too heavy.
Yes.
I got you. Mhm.
And as one other add to that, and I'll be brief, is that in order to create the brick facade that we felt would be appropriate to work with the rest of the existing historic brick facade, we would have to do a certain amount of corbelling and design work, which is kind of that stepping out of the brick,
Mhm.
which does require it somewhere close to a full dimension brick. And so rather than doing a fake brick, we would have had to, include that additional weight,
Mhm.
which the weight of brick itself isn't so bad, but it has to stay really rigid, otherwise it cracks.
It
and you end up
cracks.
With problems in the facade.
And so the durability on the material that you're using, would you think it would be for, like, this building was built in 1919 and reconstructed in 1930s? And with the material that you're using today, would you say that you would have that same durability and lasting?
Yeah, my understanding of the system that we've proposed
Mhm.
is that it should be good for 50 years. That it might require repair work sometime in the middle,
Mhm.
uh, that it might require some additional painting, much like any other painted
Covering.
facade, like
Absolutely,
the
yeah,
movie
weatherization.
theater across the street. But it should hold up the same way that the movie theater facade does, basically. It's a
Okay.
stucco system on some
Yeah.
level.
Question about the basement. Is it just on raw soil? Is there a sub that goes below any sort of structure? And that
Well-
must have been part of what your reality that brick was going to be too heavy.
Yeah, we actually ended up, well, two things. It's mostly a crawl space, and actually at that
Oh, okay.
that area, that facade that's on the eastern side near Main Street, it's about 16 inches from the from the ground.
It?
Yeah, and it's a multi-wife masonry foundation wall, and there did appear to be concrete in the footing, but minor amounts. And so the testing that was done was actually a soil boring um, on the southeast side
On
of
the corner, yeah.
the building.
Mhm.
And that was tested, and we were provided with a geotechnical report on that. And it said you could do brick, but it's going to crack.
It's gonna
and
crack, it's
move,
gonna take
and
too much weight,
yeah.
too heavy.
Why
And I
do
like
that?
the way,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Why do that and then have to repair it later if you have
Right.
other options?
Mhm.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do like the way that you tried to mock the style of the right drugstore building, although yours is gonna be, theirs intrude out a little bit more than what your look will look like, but it'll match perfectly, looks like, as far as what you can do today for modern technology. The spaces between the windows, it looks like it's going to be a match as well. And I know you said that it's gonna be spreaded out to look like it's the same dimensional, but it won't be because of the way the building is built. So that's kind of like out of your control. So I understand that as well.
That's correct.
I think what you presented tonight is excellent. Yeah. Like excellent. And, did you have anything that you want to add, Mr.
I
Young.
do have a question on the original, where the columns are at.
Yeah.
Um, where the windows are going out on the requested, picture. I'm sorry. It's gonna be flatter, like those columns aren't, how far are the columns that you have between the windows there? Will they be coming out any, or are they just gonna stick out maybe a couple of inches? Cause it looks like on the original, they were out quite a bit, like the windows were inset, or,
Yeah.
lack of a better term,
Yeah.
on the original. It just looks like you have the columns and then there's a window.
Mhm.
And of course, that top piece comes out farther than the columns. But I was just wondering what the depth would be on the new, if it's just gonna, the columns
Right.
are the old stuff that's there right now. Those columns be coming down?
I think what you did say something about you were changing the look from the Corinthian to more Ionic look.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Those columns, will they be coming down, or you're just gonna so they will be
They
coming
will be
down?
coming down.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um, and you can see that they stick out between 2.5 to 3 inches, depending on what they've been attached to, which the infill panels that you see in between them, I think were added probably when the modernist facade was put
Yeah.
up to cover the windows. So the new columns will have 1.5 inches of relief just on the column themselves.
Mhm.
And on the base, on the trim work, that will come out an additional 2.5 to 3 inches.
Okay.
And then they're set on additional panels that push the plane of the window back about 3 inches. And then the window itself will sit back another 2 to 3 inches.
Oh, wow.
So
was
there
just-
will be, yeah, that I should have put some better shadows on.
I think the work that you put in, it's great because we can see everything, the information, and being able to see at least what should be the finished product with the colors and everything. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
That was the only question I had.
Thank you.
It wasn't really a concern. I just wondered.
I think
I
it's a
do
very,
have one other question. You did mention that, as you were ripping away the existing, that you did find several layers of different kinds of facades that have been built over the years. Now, when you're bringing that down, or removing it totally, right?
yeah.
Do you foresee that being a problem with any asbestos or anything like that possibly being involved, or with the year of all of that pile up, you know?
Right.
And
No, it's always an excellent question with any historic project, because even though things seem like a good idea at the time, they usually didn't end up being a great idea when,
Mhm.
especially when removed.
right.
So currently, the builder that we're hoping to work with has worked with other historic facades. And the first step that they will be taking is testing all of the materials that are part of it. And then they'll have to take additional steps to protect that area of the sidewalk. Because the building inside is still going to be under use for most of it.
Mhm.
And so we want Mr. McClure's clients to be able to come and go and not feel like
Be
the
safe.
sky is falling on them. So that the demolition process will definitely take some time. They'll rebuild the upper level. The lower level, I should reinforce, will remain the same, where the aluminum storefront, the glass and aluminum frames will remain the same. And we're just going up above that. And then they'll sort of what they call dry it in, do the framing, put the windows in, and then the artisans who are going to craft this will come out for 2 to 4 weeks and
Wow.
construct it on site.
Now, I have two things. One, it's nice that you don't have a straight front across the windows, and the dimensions 1.5 to 2.5 inches forward looks like a nice proportion. So thank you for that. Also, thank you for your paragraph on renovation specifics. Specifically, the last sentence in here, as such, the new design will draw inspiration from the original details,
I like it.
but will not be an exact replication facade. Well said. So those two things, and one more plug for another commission that I'm on. And that's the Graham Historical Museum. And I would like to, if you're going to tear something down, we do have in the museum a piece of cornice that's about this big, marble from the old courthouse.
Oh, wow.
So I would ask that if there's a piece there, especially one if there's a little bit of design work instead of, I do have a piece of board that came from the bottom of the actual courthouse door,
Wow.
but it's just a board.
Yeah.
If there is anything there that has some scrolling before or during the takedown of what's there, if you could just hang on to a piece, it'd be a formal acquisition, but I can tell you, everybody on the board would say, yeah, we'd love to have that piece. So please let Mr. McClure know that we'd like to have something from it. We just aren't really sure what, and it would depend on, what would be appropriate, whatever would be left in good enough shape to be enjoyed by somebody who went, yeah, I remember when that piece was up there.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you. It looks like an excellent solution.
Yeah, that is our hope. We want to do right by this building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, like we do.
absolutely. Appreciate your
Are
time.
there any opposition statements or any concerns, anything? Okay.
Can I butcher the motion language?
Yeah, it's located in the back of the, if you want
So
to,
I'm gonna ask right now that
Okay.
what we'll do is that we'll wait until I ask for a motion or till I ask for someone, but I'm asking Karen as we speak, and I'm sorry, Mr. Young, you spoke a little
Okay.
late, but I'm asking her as we speak to go ahead on and get her summarization of the facts and evidence presented on both sides together so she can go ahead on and make the motion. But thank you for, your eagerness. Definitely want your.
so, do
participation.
you guys have any
So
other
now
questions?
we don't have any
So you,
other questions or anything before we close?
the public hearing, yeah, you have to.
Right, here, yeah. Any other concerns or questions?
No.
There are none? Okay, well then we'll be closing the public hearing at this time and for deliberation.
You have to make a motion.
Yeah, you'll have to make a motion.
I move
I
we
have a
close.
motion to close.
Yeah.
Second,
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Session is now closed. Okay, so I think we pretty much.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make an motion for approval.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay,
We thoroughly researched the application and all the other documents related to COA 2402, and we're familiar with the property that's in question. I find that if produced in accordance with the plans that are submitted, the proposed changes will be compatible with the character of that 19th century courthouse square historic district. Therefore, a motion to grant, I move that we approve the COA 2402 for the property located at 118 North Main Street as submitted because it does meet the criteria.
all in favor? Okay,
Yeah, you guys already approved it.
we have already.
Mhm.
okay,
You said
great.
motion to approve.
Okay. Motion to approve. Approve. Proposed changes. Right, so we don't have to go through that. Okay. Okay, so we have already approved COA 2404. Now we've moved the meeting to, if there are any items the commission would like to discuss, now is the time. Any new items, anything you want to bring tonight for new items?
I have nothing, Madam Chairman.
Nothing.
Mr. Young, okay, we will now hear updates from the staff. Are we gonna do this? We're doing city council or staff?
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's okay.
He didn't have a microphone, so I was gonna echo what he said, because I figured he would mention that, yes, if you notice, Ms. Carrera resigned. And so we do have 4 on the board or on the commission as of now. And so, yeah, we'll make sure that we get an application out there and hopefully get a 5th member and get a full board again.
That'd be great.
Other than that, I
Thank
have
you.
no other.
Yeah, thank you, Evan.
Okay, and now, can we hear updates from the city council?
Yeah,
That was it? Okay, same updates, great, okay. Does any commission member have any additional comments?
I have none.
If
None.
none, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried, meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys. Good meeting. You don't know, you don't. know about traffic. I was in traffic and I got here in time, but I didn't.
We're just
look at
glad
the
you're
time
here
to say
today.
I can get it. I was here, so we appreciate you coming. So, this is.